Imagine that you are looking at a picture and you are absolutely sure that two lines have different lengths. After a moment, you find out that they are identical. Your brain made a mistake. But how is that possible? After all, it is your brain that lets you see, analyze, and understand the world. How is it that it can deceive us so much? In this video, I will tell you why the brain sometimes lies, and I will do it in such a way that you will never look at reality the same way again. The brain is not a perfect machine. It is the result of millions of years of evolution, which has one main task: to help you survive. It is not about objective truth. It is about speed, efficiency, and practicality. And that means that you do not always see what really exists. Sometimes you see what the brain predicts you will see. Optical illusions are a great example of how these mechanisms work. Let's take the Muller-Lyer illusion. Two lines of the same length seem different only because they have different endings. Arrows pointing inward or outward change our perception of length. That's because the brain interprets these shapes in a spatial context. Instead of analyzing the real dimensions, it uses a shortcut. It assesses depth and distance. It works quickly, but not always precisely. Another fascinating example is a color illusion. Maybe you have seen a picture of a chessboard where two squares, one white and one gray, turn out to be exactly the same color, although they look completely different. This is the so-called shadow illusion. The brain takes into account lighting and shadow, trying to correct the image to make it more realistic, but in reality, it misleads you. But it's not just images. Our brain also creates sound illusions. Have you ever heard the word laurel and were convinced that someone was saying Yanni? That's because the brain not only registers sounds but also interprets them in context, based on experience, frequency, and even mood. Two people can hear exactly the same sound, but each of them will understand it differently. The brain does not faithfully transmit what it heard. It creates its own version. And here we come to the heart of the matter. Our brain does not record reality, it constructs it. What we see, hear, and feel is an interpretation, surprisingly effective, but still an interpretation. We see the world not as it is, but as it seems to be, based on sensory data and previous experiences. Why does it work this way at all? Because our brain must deal with an enormous amount of information. Every second, thousands of stimuli, visual, auditory, tactile, reach the brain. If we tried to analyze each of them separately and with full accuracy, we would not be able to react quickly. And a quick reaction is often the difference between survival and danger. That is why the brain uses shortcuts, simplifications, and guesses. Sometimes it does it perfectly, and sometimes it gets caught by an illusion. Interestingly, illusions are not errors. They are a function. They show us how the brain normally works. When we trick it with cleverly designed pictures or sounds, we discover its mechanisms. And that is why scientists are so eager to study illusions. They give insight into how the brain processes data, makes decisions, and creates an image of the world. Even more amazing is that the same mechanisms are responsible not only for visual illusions, but also for our memories, beliefs, and emotions. We can be absolutely sure that something happened, and then it turns out that we remember it wrong. The brain reconstructs memories every time we return to them. Sometimes it adds details. Sometimes it omits something. Sometimes it mixes facts with imagination. This is another form of illusion. Only instead of the eyes, it concerns memory. Emotions can also distort perception. When you are scared, it seems to you that you see movement in a dark corner of the room. When you are in love, everything around seems more beautiful. The brain interprets the world through the filter of your feelings. It can be moving, but also very deceptive. Ultimately, it is worth remembering one thing. Illusions are not just tricks for the eye or ear. They are proof that our perception is not a passive reception of data, but an active, creative process. And although thanks to this, we are able to react quickly, create, understand, and imagine things we have never seen, we must remember that what we consider reality does not always have to be 100% real. That is why it is so important to learn about how your own brain works. The better we understand it, the less susceptible we are to manipulation, wrong decisions, and our own internal traps. And at the same time, we can better appreciate how extraordinary this organ is, which allows us to experience the world. If you liked this episode and want to learn more about how our brain works, be sure to subscribe, click the thumbs up, and share this video with your friends. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.